All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Today's contest at Arrowhead between the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills was a unique one, as this first and foremost has become one of the National Football League's better rivalries in recent years. But you look at both of these teams. And the reason why I say it was unique, they both hit the field today desperate for a win and seeking some much needed momentum with the playoffs right around the corner. And for the Bills, even before this game started, I said that they needed this win a little bit more than the Chiefs. You figure Buffalo took the field today after dropping three out of their last four, and they still need to rally after they won today, as they're currently still on the outside looking in the playoff picture on the AFC side. Now, credit to Buffalo, they were able to take that crowd at Arrowhead out of the game early, and that's big because we know how the crowd in Kansas City can be. And this is goes back long before Patrick Mahomes. This goes back to the days of Andy Reid. Pardon me, not Andy Reid. Andy Reid obviously is currently the Chiefs head coach, but Marty Schottenheimer. Okay, late great Marty Schottenheimer. This goes back to then, when Arrowhead was one and has continued to be one of the noisiest stadiums in the National Football League. Nonetheless, Buffalo jumped out to that 14 to nothing lead early in the second quarter today. And they were up 17-7 in the third. And even then, at some point, you knew that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs would rally, which they did, as they rallied to tie this contest in the fourth quarter at 17 apiece. And then from there, when you have opportunities against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you've got to seize them. And I was looking at Buffalo late. They were driving. They had an opportunity to salt the game away, and then, they get stopped on third down, but then it's the penalty. And even before that penalty, Josh Allen missed a wide open Gabe Davis in the end zone for a touchdown. And of course, Gabe Davis came to the sidelines extremely frustrated. Kansas City's defense did stop Buffalo on third down. And then, the drive was able to continue due to a defensive penalty. But I just didn't like the fact that this Buffalo offense, which did have success running the football today, got away from that as they were trying to pass and pass and pass. Why? Because Kansas City still had two timeouts at that point. And if you're Buffalo, you want to try to get them to use those timeouts. You didn't. Kansas City, rather, still had the 2-minute warning, obviously, an additional timeout. And yes, Tyler Bass was able to connect on the 39-yard field goal with just under 2 minutes left to give Buffalo the 20-17 edge. However, you're giving Patrick Mahomes the football back with timeouts and plenty of time. And, he's done it so many times in his brief NFL career, and you expected it to happen once again. And it looked like it was going to be that way when, he connected with Travis Kelsey, his BFF, on a big play. And then Kelsey unexpectedly lateraled to wide receiver Kadarius Tony. And you're looking at it because there's probably like a buck 20 left on the clock at that point. You're saying to yourself, okay, now Buffalo has an opportunity to come back and try to win this game. No. The referees called Kadarius Tony for lining up offsides, which he was. Um, and this Bills defense would take advantage of that. They hunkered down, put the necessary pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and stopped Kansas City's drive and gave the ball back to their offense to run out the clock. And of course, we anybody who watched the game saw an irate Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, I don't think any of us have ever seen Patrick Mahomes that irate as he was. And he was irate with the officials for calling the offsides. It was legitimately an offsides call. But I think more than Patrick Mahomes being frustrated with the officials, I think Patrick Mahomes is frustrated with what is happening this season. I talked about this last week after the Chiefs lost to Green Bay on Sunday night. The Chiefs have not given Patrick Mahomes the personnel around him like he had in years past. And I said it last week, and I'll say it again right now. Patrick Mahomes cannot throw and catch the football. He can only do one or the other, and you're paying him handsomely to catch the ball, but he still needs talent around him. And it's like with the exception of Travis Kelsey, it's this no frills attitude if you're Kansas City as far as who you're giving Patrick Mahomes to work with on offense. And it's not like Kansas City is getting blown out because they're still in the games. They have a solid defense that Steve Spagnuolo is cooking up with the likes of Chris Jones on that side of the football. However, it's one of those where it's a play here or a play there. And this is when you need skill guys that are going to go out there and make said plays. You go back to the Philadelphia game a couple of weeks ago on Monday night. How many drop passes did the Chiefs receivers have? You go back to the Green Bay game this past Sunday night, it's the same old story. And then, again, lining up off sides, if you're Kadarius Tony, that's a no-no right there because that is potentially a game winning touchdown. So now Kansas City finds themselves in a spot that they're unaccustomed to. They're 8-5. Okay, they're still leading the AFC West, and their lead in the AFC West has gotten surprisingly small. Why? Because the Denver Broncos have rallied. The Broncos are now 7-6, and of course, the Broncos and Chiefs did split the season series. You're looking at it right now; it's an uphill battle for the Chiefs to have home field advantage, which they are so accustomed to doing during this Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes tenure. You got the Ravens who won today again. They're 10-3. Miami's 9-3. They play tomorrow night, even though that the Chiefs do own the tiebreaker over them. And in spite of losing today and losing last week as well, Kansas City has lucked out. Why? Because Jacksonville has lost their last two. Jacksonville's still leading the AFC South. They're 8-5. But of course, Kansas City does have the tiebreaker over Jacksonville based on their head-to-head matchup earlier this season. So you're looking at the Chiefs right now. They're currently in that three slot. But as bad as it is for Kansas City, things are still favorable for them coming down the stretch. Why? Because you look at the four teams that they have left. They're at New England this coming Sunday. They host the Raiders in week 16 on Christmas Day. They then host the Cincinnati Bengals on New Year's Eve, and then they finish up on the road in Inglewood against the Chargers. Why am I saying that things are still favorable for the Chiefs? Because you look at the quarterback situation for all of those teams involved. New England looks like they're probably going to finish picking second or third in the upcoming NFL draft. And a big portion of that is because of the quarterback issues. That's an advantage for Kansas City. You look at the Raiders. The Raiders have been playing harder under interim head coach Antonio Pierce, but nonetheless, the Chiefs still have the edge in that one. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow's out for the season. This was slated as a potentially pivotal late game clash between AFC superpowers. But of course, with Joe Burrow out for the season, the Bengals have now had to go to Jake Browning. But even with that, you can't just write off the Bengals because they have won their last two contests with Jake Browning under center as they're looking to try to get into the playoffs. And then finally finishing up at the Chargers. You look at the Chargers. Justin Herbert was already injured. He fractured a finger today. Don't know what his status is going to be going forward. But typically, the Chiefs tend to have the Chargers number in Inglewood. So I still like the Chiefs' chances to rally and get things going and win the AFC West at least. However, things might still be a little bit different in January because there is a strong possibility that Patrick Mahomes and company are going to have to go on the road. This is something that they have not had to do during this Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes tenure, only when they had the travel to go to the Super Bowl. But it's gut check time for this Chiefs team. Again, Patrick Mahomes is frustrated. He was frustrated with the rest, but I think more importantly, he's frustrated with the talent around him. Things got to change for the Kansas City Chiefs. I said this before. I think, they traded Tyreek Hill last year, okay? And, they were able to win that Super Bowl, but I think winning that Super Bowl with a lack of explosiveness at the wide receiver position, like they had when they had Tyreek Hill, I think it allowed this front office to get a little bit laxed. And as Patrick Mahomes continues to grow as a quarterback, because as great as he is, he actually can get better, which is scary for the rest of the league. But nonetheless, you got to put talent around him. On the flip side, for the Buffalo Bills, they had their bye week, and I think that bye week gave them the opportunity to recharge their batteries because not only did they lose 3 out of 4, they lost 3 out of 4 in very tough fashion. The Sunday night contest to Cincinnati when they still had Joe Burrow, losing at home when they were heavily favored against the Denver Broncos, and then, of course, last Sunday in overtime against the Philadelphia Eagles when they had multiple opportunities to win that game. Pardon me, the week before, rather. And then, you had your bye. So you had an opportunity to recharge, get back on track. Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator, getting more on the same point with quarterback Josh Allen. I think all of that definitely helped. The Buffalo Bills, they came to play today. It wasn't pretty at times, but you know what? You take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day of the week, even though it wasn't an ugly win. However, the Bills just went out there and took care of their business. So now Buffalo finds themselves in that immense logjam at 7-6 in the AFC for the wild card. You got Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Houston, Denver, Cincinnati, and Buffalo all there at 7-6. Of course, Buffalo is at the tail end of that discussion due to the fact that they lose some tiebreakers. They've already lost to Denver and they've already lost to Cincinnati. But nonetheless, you've got to be in it to win it. Excuse me, for the Bills, they've still got a tough schedule coming down the stretch. They host Dallas this coming Sunday. They're at the Chargers, a winnable game. They host New England, a winnable game, but then they finish up on the road against Miami. That could be an truly tough contest, but nonetheless, this was a rallying point for the Buffalo Bills. This was a much needed win that they had to go dig down deep for. So at the end of this clash at Arrowhead, let's see how the Chiefs are able to get back on the track. Let's see if the Bills can pick up some momentum for themselves going forward from this. Like I said before, much needed win for the Bills as they head into the stretch run of this season. Excuse me. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.